Welcome, dear viewers and dear listeners, to another episode of Navigating the New Normal in the Workplace with Len Adams, CEO of ACG Resources. Len, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Michele. Good morning, viewers and listeners.
How are you,
Pleased
Len?
to be here again. I'm terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
How are you?
excellent. I'm doing well. No complaints.
Good.
I'm excellent. I'm happy. No, this is great. I love doing these shows with you. This is
Me too.
fantastic.
And I hope our viewers and listeners are doing well
Me
and have
too.
been safe through all this nonsense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today's topic, Len, is
Surprise.
ageism in the
Oh,
workplace.
ageism.
Ooh.
You ask an old guy about ageism, right?
I'll tell you, Len, it's something that comes up, and for some reason I don't hear too much about it, right? From the perspective of viable strategies on how to deal with it. So I thought we'd tackle this for these 30 minutes. And let me share a stat with you. 75% of the US population has less than $250,000 saved for retirement. And the expected age for retirement is 66 years old, right? What does ageism mean for you in your field?
In my field, in other words, for our candidates or in our field for what we do? For candidates?
For candidates, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. By the way, given the age, I guess I shouldn't even do this today because I should be retired because I'm 66. But I'll work today. Definitely, people are retiring later in life. I don't come across it that much. I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, we don't look at age, but we just put somebody on a position and he was in his mid-60s. Okay, we only knew that because we could, count on our fingers by looking at the resume and figuring out when he graduated. He was actually a little bit younger than me, which was a little disconcerting. But anyway, everybody's younger than me now. I think in certain areas it may exist. Maybe in certain technical areas where it's kind of slanted towards younger people because of the technology and the knowledge base. I think in a lot of other areas, quite frankly, and maybe because of where I'm sitting personally, I think a lot of positions like some gray hair or some skin on top, because I think there's a different work ethic. There's a different approach to how you work. I think it's more internal. I think if you feel old and you come across old, that may come across in an interview or in your presentation. I think if you come across as someone who's vibrant and so on, I don't think it should be a massive issue, quite frankly.
Right. So let's talk about.
Does it exist? I'm sure it does.
Sure. Let's talk about ageism specifically and how it plays a role in seeking a job. Now, for an individual who comes to the market with experience over 15, 20, 25, 30 years of experience, what should their resume say?
That's a very interesting question. I'm going to relay a story to you. I was doing a presentation for an outplacement group a couple of years ago. And there was a gentleman in the group who was probably about my age that I am now. Okay. And this is a couple of years ago. And, I always ask if there are any questions. And he complained to me. He said, I sent out my resume and what I did was I cut 15 years off and I got an interview and the interview lasted 5 minutes.
Oh.
I said, okay. He said, why was that? I said, because you weren't truthful on your resume.
Oh.
I said, you left off 15 years. They were expecting someone 40 to walk in and somebody 60 walked in. I said, so I see, again, you and I have spoken about this. I'm a bit of a contrarian. A lot of people think they should cut time off their resume. I don't know that I agree with that. I think it's a badge of honor of where we are in our lives. And I always tell candidates, if the client is not going to hire you or talk to you because you have more years on your resume, they're not the right job for you. They're not
They're
the right
not the right.
company.
That's right.
Okay, what are you accomplishing? So by hiding dates on your resume, you don't accomplish anything. All you're doing is, yes, maybe you'll get your foot in the door for an interview, but you know what? When someone's expecting, look, this is, I speak only the truth, as you know, so it's maybe not always popular, but I speak what I feel.
Speak it, Len. Speak it.
If someone is looking for someone and they're expecting and they look at a resume and they think the person is 45 and somebody 65 walks in, you're off on the wrong foot. Sorry.
So wait, so you brought up a good point. When it comes to a resume that reflects a lot of experience, right? Over significant,
wear it as a badge, man.
Wear it as a badge, right? So
absolutely.
Let's just clarify here, because I know listeners out there saying, wait a minute. Someone told me that I should cut 15 years off my resume. Here's the thing. What you're saying, Len, is that the person deliberately made themselves look younger. That's different from condensing and fine-tuning your resume.
Yes,
Let's talk about
absolutely. Yes, there's nothing wrong with condensing, okay? Whereas you don't need to put the long paragraphs on jobs you had 20 or 25 years ago, okay? You could just put the date and the place and maybe the title, okay? You don't need to put all your responsibilities, because really what you did 25 years ago is not all that important today, okay? Yes, it's a good basis for what you've done, but people are more concerned about what you did in the last few years, the last 5 to 10 years. So that's where the meat of your resume should be, okay?
Right.
If you're mature, I suggest sometimes using a functional resume where you're putting all your skills and strengths on the top of the resume, okay? And then accomplishments, and then at the bottom, you're going to put your dates of employment and places where you worked, okay? Just dates, company, title, or position, okay? And just list it, one line for each, okay? And put that on the bottom. With the theory being, this comes down to, career management and resume management. When someone is reading a resume, if you don't get their attention in the first third of the resume, you lost them.
That's exactly right, Len.
So you have to, that's the selling area, the first third, okay? Right. So the other part of that is, if you really sell them on your accomplishments and experience in the first third, the bottom, where it's going to show how long you've worked, will become less important, because you've already dazzled them, right? So that's the way I look at things. Look, I always give personal experience, okay? I'm in this business since I'm almost 14 years old. So I'm in the business 52 years. So when I say it, I don't hide it when I tell people I'm in the business 50 years, 52 years, okay? And when I think about it, I always qualify it and say, but I started very young, okay? I was a teenager when I started, okay, working for a family member. So yes, I'm concerned about ageism too, because I look at it and say, when I'm talking to a prospective client, do they really want to talk to me? I'm a little bit senior, okay? But then when I talk to people, they say to me, oh, you don't sound as if you're an older man. You sound pretty energetic. And I take that as a compliment, because I'm only older up here and around here. In here, I'm still 42.
That's right, Len. And longevity. So you touched on some very important points here. So I wanted to just circle back. The different kinds of resumes, right? So just like there's the chronological resume that we're all familiar with, right? That highlights your experience in date order, right? From the most recent to the one that took place years ago. There's the functional resume, which Len talked about. So I think determining which resume is right to reflect your experience, it's something that you'll probably want to think about. If the chron resume does not reflect all of the skills that you've acquired, you may want to think about a different format.
Absolutely.
Can't get locked down to it. If you've held managerial roles, and then you've held jobs in tech, and then you've held roles in entertainment, that may be a good opportunity for a functional resume. Why? Because it'll describe everything you've done, right? And you won't have to figure out, well, how do you connect the dots? Let's talk about transferable skills. Since we're talking about ageism, and I want to highlight it because for listeners that have a lot of experience that are considering changing careers, it's important to embrace the experience that you've acquired, right? And demonstrate transferable skills. We've talked about this, Len, but let's talk about it from the perspective of older candidates.
Sure. I want to go back on two things, though.
Yes.
First, on going back to ageism. Okay. If you approach the market from the viewpoint of, oh, I'm old, nobody wants me, guess what?
That's what's exactly
You're old and nobody wants you. Okay?
There you go.
So it's what you portray out in the market. If you come across as someone who's energetic and who could learn and who's not stuck in their ways because they're older and very, what's the word I'm thinking of, stuck and not malleable, then that's what's going to happen. So you have to kind of change your mindset, number one. Okay, going back to the resume, something I learned many, many years ago in terms of resumes, there's 4 letters. And if you will remember these 4 letters when you write a resume, it's AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. Okay?
Can you repeat that? Repeat that.
Attention, interest, desire, action. The resume has to grab their attention, get their interest, create a desire, and have an action, and create an action for them to want to call you.
That's
okay?
great. AIDA.
If you get them, AIDA, A-I-D-A, okay? If you remember those 4 letters when you're putting out your resume, okay, you'll do well. You have to think of that, okay? Now, you asked me about transferable skills. Sure, I mean, customer service, technology in many cases is transferable, right? Technology in a bank could be used in an insurance company and vice versa. If you have good customer service skills, those are certainly transferable. We talked about this in one of the earlier sessions.
That's right.
If you're in the hospitality industry or the restaurant industry, it's not inconceivable to go into the medical industry in some kind of a customer service role. Okay, so you have to, again, dig deep and think, what do I have? What skills do I have that are only used by my industry? And what other skills do I have that can go somewhere else?
That's exactly right.
Then the idea is, okay, where else? What else could use those skills? What other type of industry? Okay, and that's something you have to really look at and research. A lot of skills are very, very transferable.
That's right. That's right. So, okay, so you've got your resume together. It looks the right way. It reflects you in the proper light. And now you go for the interview. Chances are it'll be a virtual interview. We've discussed in a previous session how to put your best foot forward in a virtual session. But what should you not say if you've got a lot of experience under your belt? Maybe you're a baby boomer. Maybe you're looking for a new job. What should you not say to age yourself? Now, what I mean by that is reflect your age as something negative.
Right. Well, you certainly don't want to say, I hope you don't mind that I'm much older than you.
Yeah. Right. or you remind me of my granddaughter.
Yeah, right. You remind me of my granddaughter. I love her. She's great. So you don't want to say anything like that. You don't want to say, hey, do you remember when the Beatles came out?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I mean, we joke around, right? But don't say, wow, I remember, I was actually saying this in a presentation, but it was, it wasn't just about, wow, I remember when the fax existed and we used to fax.
Right. Or boy, these video calls are great. I remember when they had them on the Jetsons. I never thought it would happen. Or my Dick Tracy watch. You don't want to. We're joking around about it, but listen. When we get a little bit older, and I'm in that age range. Okay, sometimes our sense of humor gets a little silly, and we don't think before we always speak. So think before you speak, right? What was the old sign? You see, now I'm doing it. Before speaking, engage your brain. Engage brain before speaking. That was
Oh,
it. There was a poster, something like that.
engage. I see. I
Yeah,
see.
engage brain before speaking. So think about what you're saying and what it's going to sound like and what it's going to mean. Okay. So, the flip side of that is you don't want to throw vernacular into your
Yes.
conversation to make you sound like you're 18, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By using, words and terms that your grandson may use or your daughter or whatever. Okay. So stay away from that too, because that's, that's not going to make you look good. Okay. Be who you are. Okay. And try to keep age out of the conversation, right?
That is
Again, it's
rightfully
often obvious, right? I always say, you look at me, I'm not 30. Bottom line, okay? But that doesn't bother me. I'm not ashamed of it.
That's
I
right.
wear my age with honor. It took me a lot to get to this point. I went through a lot of stuff to get here. So
That's right. And also, so let's talk about specific strategies, right? And you just highlighted one. The fact that you are maybe older than some of your colleagues or individuals you work with demonstrates that you've been in various circumstances that you've, transitioned successfully into others. So you have a reference point on how to stay relevant. That in itself is a plus, right?
mm-hmm.
Because when you go for interviews, you can highlight how you have successfully transitioned from other fields. That's one. Two, don't assume that the person you're speaking to doesn't know what you're talking about, right? So here's something that I think, if chances are you're probably going to be interviewed by someone younger than you. Don't assume that person, it doesn't have the experience or the knowledge base to understand concepts just because they may be younger, right, Len? People make
Absolutely.
that assumption. Oh, they're a millennial. They don't know anything. Stop bashing millennials.
That's right. A lot of millennials, many millennials, most millennials, I'll say, are quite bright. Okay, and we learn from them. So I don't assume anything. When my sons came into the business,
Mm-hmm.
one of my youngest son, he's 31, and this is a few years ago. Our first few months together, a lot of things he came to me with, I would say, nah, I've always done it this way. Nah, I've always done it this way.
Right.
And after about 6 months, we had a blow up. And
Uh-oh.
I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, you don't take me seriously. You dismiss everything." And I sat back and I said, "You know what? You're right." I said, "Because in my mind, you're my youngest child. What do you know?" Meanwhile, he's got more education than me. Okay, and he was pretty bright. So I said, "You know what?" I said, "From this day forward, I will never say to you, 'Nah, we've always done it this way.'" Okay. I said, I'll take your ideas and I'll listen to them. Just make a case to me. And I have to tell you, I guess it's maybe 10 years he's with me now, haven't had an issue. Okay. Because I do take some, I may not agree with everything, and I'll tell him why I don't agree with it. Okay. And he'll make a case to me and we'll go back and forth, but we have a dialogue. I don't just dismiss him anymore because I respect him for what he is. Same thing with my other son and my daughter, and even my team. I always tell them, come to me with ideas because I know I don't know everything.
Right.
Okay. And you may have a great idea. You may not think it's a great idea, but bring it to me because it very well may be a great idea. And I want a different perspective because I don't want everything just coming from me, because I'm coming at it from my perspective in life. Your perspective as a millennial, or we have some that are a little bit older than millennials, some that are younger. I want your perspective because you're coming at it from a different viewpoint. And that, I think that's what's going to keep us relevant in the marketplace.
That's right. That's right. Now, you touched on this earlier, Len, very astutely. Complaining. When you're in an interview, right? Don't complain about your previous experiences, even if they were negative.
Absolutely.
Len,
Always put a positive spin.
Always put a positive spin.
Always.
Have you encountered candidates that you chose not to proceed with? I know I have, where they were bashing previous employers. I'm like, well, if they're bashing their previous employers, they're going to bash me. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I mean, some people, it's just their personality. It has nothing to do with their age. You know, I
Right.
could point you to people in their 30s that you just don't want to talk to them. You know, they're
That's right.
miserable. So, you know, that maybe just personality wise. Yeah, you don't want to bash your former employer. Always put everything in a positive, as best of a positive spin as you can, right?
Mhm.
Even if it was a terrible situation. Um, that's the first thing. Second thing is, you know, you talk about not complaining. You know, again, if you don't want to show your age, don't complain about the heat and the cold and, you know,
Yes.
uh, these damn millennials out there. You just don't want to do that. You have
Don't do
to,
that, right.
you know, don't sound and keep yourself relevant.
Mm,
Okay. At every age, we have the capability, believe it or not, to learn technology and to stay as current as possible. Okay. And if you could demonstrate that, all right, I think it'll put you in a better light with a prospective employer that if they were thinking you were too old, this it happens, this will turn them,
that's
okay?
right.
Because they're going to say, well, this person was open to new ideas,
Mhm.
open to learning, okay? Look, not to make it personal, I put myself up against any 40-year-old in terms of a work ethic. I'll outwork anybody, okay? And I bet I have a lot of colleagues and people contemporary to me that are the same way, all right? I have a very dear friend. He's a teacher, and we know each other from high school. We've been friends for a long time. And I was listening to him last week because he's a teacher in New Jersey. And I said, so what's going to happen? He said, well, he said, they gave us the option to work from home,
Right.
but I opted not to do it. I'm going into the classroom because we
Mhm.
have the smart board and I'm going to have the video on and all my students are going to be home. He says, and I'm going to work from the school. So I said, so you had the option to stay home and you decided to go in? He said, yeah, I'm going to go in because I think it'll be better for the students. Okay.
Mm,
That is generational. Okay, he's approaching it from a viewpoint of I want to do what's best for the students. He's got a great work ethic, and he said I'm going to go. I'm going to be at the school. At the
that's
school, I'll go
right.
in every day.
That's
I'll
right.
wear my mask. He said I'll have nobody in the classroom, but I'll be able to approach the students the right way. And I respected that, and I said, you know what?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
difference between him and some of the teachers that are younger
Mm, of
that say, well, if I could stay home, I'm going to stay home. Now, I understand some people have child care issues, and I
course.
get that. That's fine. But some people don't. Some people are just inherently lazy. Okay.
Yeah, and regardless of whatever age. So I think the safe statement here is regardless of what age you are, there's some traits and there's some practices that you can do and and put your best foot forward. So I think this
Hmm.
can be applied to no matter what age. Let's time's flying. I don't know where it
Yeah. Wow.
goes, right? Um, you what you're basically saying is take a risk as well, right? Be open to taking risks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I'm talking about a friend, my friend. My friend was originally a teacher, went into the financial field.
Hmm.
At the age of, I think he was 46, he decided to go back into teaching. Now, some
Wow.
smart school took a chance on him coming back into that field at 46, when many teachers are retiring. He went back in. Okay. Actually, he was 48. I'm lying. He was 48 when he went back into becoming a teacher. So at that time, some smart principal said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a chance on this guy. Because how many people hire teachers at 48 to start over again? Not too many. So there's a perfect example, right? He
So
was just 2 years short of
he
50.
2 years short of 50. He took a chance on himself and other people took a chance on him. And that's a
Absolutely.
perfect example. Take the risk, take a chance on yourself. Don't poo-poo yourself because of whatever circumstance, whether you've lost your job or whether you're looking for a job. Have confidence in yourself and your abilities to adapt in this circumstance, right, Len?
If you say I can't, guess what? You can't. If you say I can, you can.
That's right. So it's
Okay,
all
and
in the
that's the bottom
mindset.
line.
It's
So
all in the
yeah,
mindset. I agree with you. You mentioned staying relevant. I say to some of my clients, stay fresh. Let's talk about that. You mentioned keeping up with technology, right? The a positive of the pandemic is that now at home we have access to so many courses, so many free courses. Google has some out there in project management and tech. What other ways do you recommend someone stay fresh?
stay in the now. Okay, You know, so many people are lost in, I was going to say lost in space, lost in the past, where all they
Yeah.
talk about is the past. And when I was, and when I was, and when I, rather than when I was, how about where I am today and what I did, what I could do tomorrow, and where I think we should take this project, and where I could see this company going, and what I'd like to do with this job is, rather than, well, what I did 30 years ago was,
Yes.
talk about what are you going to do, not what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a way to have people look at you as someone who's forward thinking and not past thinking.
That's
And
right.
I think that's maybe something that my generation falls into too frequently. I'm guilty of it myself sometimes.
Really.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You know, what I did 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
But
you bring up a good point. Forward thinking, that's what we as career coaches say. You're always focusing on the future, forward thinking. So I think it's fantastic. Any last thoughts on ageism?
um, does it exist? Probably. Maybe not as much as people think, because I will say that, and you know, I'll use ageism from 50 up. Okay,
Right.
there's a pretty good work ethic in that in those generations. So uh, take that as the positive.
That's
And
right.
you know, those generations have a wealth of knowledge that some of the younger people don't have. If I think forward, if I'm looking at the generations today, from kindergarten through high school, even college today, I shudder to what the next 10, 15 years are going to bring when we look at how these poor kids are being educated or not educated. You know, I have my grandkids getting 15 minutes a day. You know, what are they going to learn in 15 minutes? So, you know, they're going to have a lot of catching up to do.
Well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, Len. My husband and I were talking about how the classroom has changed, right? Our son works in a hybrid scenario and it's virtual, you know, some parts of the week, and then others it's in person. And this is the new normal for them, right?
Yes, yes,
We're the ones who are adjusting, right? And I'll speak for myself right now. I'm the one who's adjusting to this new norm of working in front of my computer all day, right, with others. So I think that uh, time will determine how well we adjust to it. But what's
yes.
inevitable is that we have to,
We have to
right?
adjust, without a doubt, without a doubt,
Yeah,
and take
yeah,
it as a positive. You know, there's going to be more. I think we're going to be depending upon these students to really be more self-learning.
yes.
Okay, and you know, they're going to be given direction, and then they have to run with it.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, I'm
mm-hmm.
fearful for the really young kids, because this is formative for them, and they're
Yes,
not getting that discipline that they really need. I don't mean discipline in terms of, you know, having to be disciplined, but the discipline of how to learn, and
right,
and,
right.
and it's falling back to the parents, which is
which
tough.
which is tough and challenging. What I do know is that my son is in an age of social media, right? So, excuse me, using social media quite often. So his attention span is quite different
Yes,
from me growing up playing Centipede. Now,
right.
or Pac-Man, but I think that you know, ageism, it's a reality. It happens. I have a plethora of statistics that can highlight the negative aspect of it, but we're positive, and what we want to do is impart information that you can use. And it starts with your attitude and the strategies that you implement. So Len, thank you so much. Len, this is the conclusion of this
Oh
segment.
boy,
Yeah, yeah. This has been great,
it
right?
has been. It's been fantastic. Okay, but we're not going to tell the viewers and listeners that we might have a surprise for them.
That's right.
We're not going to
That's
tell
right.
them yet.
We're not going
We're
to tell
working on
you.
it. We're
Working
working
on
on something really interesting.
it. That's right,
Okay?
Len.
So
That's
they have to
right.
come back if they want to know about
That's right.
it.
We want you to come back. We know you'll come back. We know you'll tell your friends. Len, thank you so much for taking the time out
And
of your busy schedule, Len.
oh, and thank you. This has been an absolute joy. I've enjoyed it. For anyone that doesn't know Michele, Michele is the consummate hostess. She really makes this whole process very comfortable, and she's very knowledgeable, and She's terrific. I'm glad we met and have become friends.
Yes, I agree. Same here, Len. Same, all the same for you. It's been fantastic. I look
Yes.
forward to continuing to work with you. We'll let
Same
our
here.
viewers know soon. But
Yes.
in the meantime, take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Tell your friends about our podcast episode. Share it with them. That's what this is all about. And we'll see you next time. Len, don't move. Take care.